Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel or welcome to another video. So my name is Marian, I work in radiology. In today's video, I'm going to give you all my top 10 likes and dislikes about working as an MRI tech. Since I do work as a multimodality technologist in radiology, I work in different departments and MRI is one of the departments I work in. So I have my notes on my phone and I will give you my top 10 likes and dislikes about working as an MRI tech. And if you're thinking about MRI or if you are an MRI student or even if you are an MRI tech, can you like comment below just so I can know? And I have videos on how you can go about your training and how you can study for your test. So the first dislike that I have, I'll start with dislikes. The first dislikes I have about MRI is taking call. So if you do not know what call is, so call is whenever you have to have a phone or a pager by you, and if you're on call for, let's say, that night or that week, someone can call you, especially if it's after hours and the MRI department closes for the night. Then someone can call you and say, "Hey, we got a stat," and sometimes this can like get in the way of your plans. Maybe you can't plan a trip that weekend, or you can't plan to go out to dinner, or meet friends, or visit family. So taking call is like one of my dislikes because, other radiology departments, most of them do not have to take call. Well, X-ray, CT, mammography, depending on what you work at or where you work at, you may not have to take call in the other departments. So I know ultrasound, IR, MRI, nuclear medicine, I know a lot of those departments do take call. So that's one of my dislikes. You do get paid extra for being on call. You get paid for holding the pager, and then if you do get called in, that's time and a half added to your paycheck, meaning that's like a lot of money you can get. But all the time you don't have to take call. I think it just depends on if you're working at a hospital and if they are not open 24 hours. Like hospitals are open 24 hours, but the MRI department, maybe they close at 7, 9, or 11. So they would need someone to take call the rest of the hours during the night if a stat comes in, or if someone is working like in MRI overnight but they call in, then they will have someone on call to come in and just take their place. If you do decide to work in MRI, every place do not make you take call. This all depends on if you're full time, if you're PRN, if you're working at a hospital, or if you're working at an outpatient imaging clinic, because outpatient imaging clinics do not make you take call. So it just depends on that. If you have questions about the call, you can comment below and I can clarify it if I didn't. So number two, my second dislike, pacemakers and stimulators. So I don't mind scanning pacemakers and stimulators, but it's just a lot that you have to watch out for. So one of the benefits or pros that I have with working in a hospital as an MRI tech, because I worked in a hospital before and I worked at an outpatient imaging clinic and I also travel. I'm like a travel tech in radiology because I go to different clinics and hospitals. So working in a hospital, you can look at previous x-rays and abdomen scans, CT scans to see if the patient has like a pacemaker and a stimulator. But whenever I was working at an outpatient imaging clinic, I wasn't, as a student, I wasn't trained to do that. And that's probably because most patients that come into that clinic, maybe they do not have an x-ray, a chest x-ray on file, or maybe it's their first MRI scan and they never had an abdomen scan or abdomen x-ray, which a lot of patients in a hospital setting, you're going to see a previous chest x-ray, abdomen x-ray, head x-ray, because most of them have been in the hospital or they are in the hospital, so you're able to see that. So scanning pacemaker and stimulators, you can scan them if it's MRI conditional and if you have a machine that they can be scanned on, or if a pacemaker representative come out and program the pacemaker, you can scan them. But what I don't like about it is if you're working with someone, then they may forget to check their information, or they may They probably don't know if you have a stimulator patient, it has to be programmed in this mode, or if it's not flipping over to MRI mode, then you can't scan them. Sometimes people see MRI conditional and they go ahead and scan the patient. Especially with stimulators, you can't do that. It has to be the right machine, the right coil, like MRI coil that you have to put on the patient to scan them. It has to be several things. You just can't put them in the scanner if it's a MRI conditional. So when I was working in a hospital as an MRI tech, I have more time to look up pacemaker stimulators if they're fine or not. But when I was working at an outpatient imaging clinic, there's not enough time because there's a patient like every 30 minutes. So you have to get the patient on and off the table, clean. You don't have time to check implants because they do not give you enough time. And you can get someone else to check it for you, but that person may not be checking it right, or it may not be safe. So you have to do your own research whenever you're in MRI, because I've had people tell me, "Oh yes, that stimulator is good to go. It's good to scan," and come to find out, I did my own research before I did the scan, or before the patient either came down or came in, and it wasn't safe to scan. So you just have to do your own research, especially as an MRI tech. You can't go by what other people tell you, especially. Sadly, even if they're your coworkers, you still can't go by or trust what people say, because at the end of the day, you're the one doing the scan, and if someone get burned, hurt, or worst case scenario, killed, then you can lose your license. So my third dislike, and I hate to bring this up, but this is a dislike, is working with others. So in MRI, I like to work by myself, and it's because you cannot get sidetracked in MRI. If you get sidetracked in MRI, you can end up, like I'm saying, scanning the wrong patient, burning someone, especially if whoever you're working with is not properly checking the MRI screening forms, if they're not going over x-rays, if they have x-rays to look at, if they're not checking the patient to make sure that they don't have anything metal or implants, then you can end up injuring someone or burning someone. And at the end of the day, if they tell you that they screen someone, and if they said that they checked, but maybe they was checking the wrong patient, you are the tech that trusted them and put the patient in the scanner and did a scan, so you can lose your license. And there's been situations, whether it's involving me, or if I'm reading it on the news or in an article, or if another person that I know work in MRI is telling me from their clinic, there's been times where either someone has scanned the wrong patient, pulled up the wrong patient name, but scanned the right patient, but that patient still got the wrong results, or someone left a let's say a cell phone or a knife or someone in the patient's pocket because they didn't change them properly. What if someone get injured? So it's just always good for me to just work by myself because I'm focusing on what I have to do. I'm not distracted with the small talk that some people have whenever you're just sitting there scanning for 30 minutes. Sometimes that leaves room for you to have too much small talk and someone to make a mistake. So then you have sometimes people aren't screening people correctly. So I just like to work by myself. That's just me. And then my fourth dislike is, if you're working at an outpatient imaging clinic, a lot of the MRI scans is like every 20 minutes or every 30 minutes. I can keep up with the pace, and that doesn't bother me. But what bothers me is if I can't talk to my patients, I can't ask them their medical history, I can't screen them correctly, I can't clean the machine, or get it ready and wipe it down correctly for the next patient. That bothers me because I think that jeopardizes patient safety. It makes you not be able to screen your patient correctly. And then now you can't wipe the machine down properly. So that's one of my dislikes about MRI, is if you work at a outpatient imaging clinic, depending on what clinic you work at. A lot of clinics that I've worked at, it's every 30 minutes, it's very busy, but you may get to a clinic where it's not as busy. So that just depends on what area you work in and what place you decide to work at. at a hospital, this will vary depending on what hospital you work at because some hospital some hospitals are bigger than others. So you're going to see a lot of MRI scans being ordered, but there are hospitals that is much smaller and they may not have a lot of MRI scans being ordered. So you may have a little downtime to research pacemakers, research stimulators. It just depends on where you work at. And then my fifth dislike about working in MRI is if someone comes late, it throws off the whole schedule. So, this really is a main factor for outpatient imaging clinics. I've worked at a lot of hospitals in MRI. Hospitals have a little leeway when it comes to patients being late, but some hospitals are busy too. Some hospitals are every 30 minutes too, depending on how big the facility is. But for an outpatient imaging clinic standpoint, if someone comes late, that's going to throw off the entire schedule. It's going to make someone else be late getting on the table, or it's going to push you to get off even later if you're a closer. So if you are a closer at an outpatient imaging clinic, if you're supposed to close at 9 and you have, let's say you have two people that come late, then that's going to probably make you get off at about 10:30, maybe even 11 after you have cleaned, because it throws off the whole schedule when someone comes in late. And then if someone is a hard stick, whenever you have to start an IV, that can push the schedule back even further too, because now you're trying to start their IV and you're missing the IV because they are a hard stick, or you have to call for help. So that's another dislike that I have. Um, my sixth dislike is no metal objects. So in MRI, you have this big magnet machine. So metal objects cannot go in there. Cell phones, pacemakers, stimulators, hearing aids, anything that has a battery, unless it's a pacemaker and a stimulator and it's been programmed into MRI scan mode and it's conditional to scan for the patient. But other than that, that can burn or injure the patient. So no metal objects cannot go in the MRI room. So you have to always pat down yourself, especially if you're coming from another radiology department like X-ray and CT, where you as a technologist don't have to pat down yourself. You can just walk in the room. There are times where, let's say you're doing an X-ray of a chest, if someone has on jeans, you can keep the jeans on, but in MRI, you can do an MRI of a brain. Even if they have jeans on, you still have to take it off. So, number seven, whenever you have to work in a hospital setting, a lot of claustrophobic patients is in MRI, whether you work in hospital or outpatient imaging. But specifically, when you work in a hospital setting, if someone is claustrophobic, then the doctor may order for them to have anesthesia. So meaning that they have to get sedated. So if they do get sedated, then you have to bring like a crash card inside of the tech area, not the actual MRI room, but you have to keep it close by in case someone, let's just say worst case scenario, cold or don't do well with the sedation. Not saying that happens. I'm just saying that's one of the reasons why we probably would bring a crash cart over. And then you have a lot of people coming down. You have the anesthesia doctors, you have the anesthesia nurse, you have me as the MRI tech, you have the patient, you may have the transporter bringing the patient in. So there's going to be a lot of people in MRI whenever there is a sedation case, a lot of tubes, just a lot of oxygen hooking the patient up. So you have to be mindful and make sure that everyone is safe going in the room, because I've had doctors or nurses or just anybody who just thought that they can just walk in the room with any equipment, scissors, knife, any, not knife, but I'm just saying anything metal they can just walk in the room with. And oh, well, you just never know. Some people do keep knives in their pockets. But anyway, you get what I'm saying. They walk in the room and they don't, screen themselves or know what to take out, especially if they don't go to MRI a lot. So that's all of my dislikes that I do have for MRI, at least right now. So I will get into my likes about MRI because I do like working in it. I just wanted to give you my dislikes about it, just so you can be mindful and careful, especially if you are an MRI student or looking to go into MRI, just so that you don't make any mistakes. So number this is number 8. So one of my likes is I like working by myself. So the reason why I like working by myself, because when you work with others, it's easy to get distracted, especially if so in MRI is one of those things where it take a long time to get your images. So it may take 30 minutes to do a brain scan. It may take an hour to do 2 MRI scans on a patient, especially if it's with and without contrast. So there's a lot of not I wouldn't say downtime, because you still have to look and see what your next patient have to come down for. You still have to check on the next patient to make sure that they don't have any implants. You're still setting up your scans, checking on your patient. So, but compared to CT and X-ray, where the patient is in and out and you're getting another patient, MRI has a little bit of downtime where it's easy for small talk to happen if you're working with someone, and for you to make a mistake or maybe not do something correctly. So, and then it's also room for someone to help you out, and they can tell you, hey, I'm pulling up this next patient for you, and they may pull up the wrong patient, or they don't know what's next and they may give you the wrong dose of contrast, even though ideally you're supposed to check all that before you scan the patient. But it's just things like that where I just like working by myself, because I know that I'm going to check correctly, and I know that I know who I want next, and I know that I know how to screen patients properly. And I know that if someone cannot get the scan done, I'm going to tell them, sorry, you need a implant card. Or the radiologist say, we can't do your scan because an implant was seen on your form that you didn't mention. Or an implant was seen on your previous chest x-ray that I looked at that you didn't mention on your screening form. Okay, so another like about MRI, I like how I don't feel rushed, especially whenever I'm comparing this to CT and X-ray and mammography, because I work in those departments too. So when I work in the other department, it's like back to back, like you're getting patients in and out, especially depending on what facility you work at. This depends on if you work outpatient, um, whatever big hospital. So MRI, you have a lot of time to where you can comb through your patient's list and their chart, especially if you're in a hospital, and you can see, okay, what patient I have next. Let me check over their previous imaging to make sure that they don't have anything that I can't scan. But depending on if you're working in CT or mammo or X-ray, it may be a little bit busier than MRI, although we're still using our brain a lot in MRI. Okay, my last like is I like how the machine operates in MRI. So I like how we use different body coils and different settings and features to get a brain scan or abdomen scan. I think it's pretty cool how the images look, especially if you're comparing images from X-ray and mammography. So I do like that about working in MRI, is that it's pretty cool how the noises. So you're gonna hear different noises, and those different noises have different settings and the physics behind it to make and generate different images. So that's what I like about MRI. So those are my likes and my dislikes. I'm sure as time goes on, my dislikes may grow or it may decrease. My likes may grow or it may decrease. So if you want me to do like a follow-up video, I can just leave the request in the comment box. If you have any questions for me, feel free to leave it in the comment box. Other than that, that's all that I have, but you can leave any question that you have. So thank you for watching. Bye.